Hi, and welcome to step 1, video 1. In this video, I'm going to be going over where you need to go source your items. So no matter if you're going to sell teacups or clothing, kids' clothes, shoes, boxes, whatever you're going to sell, my advice will be applicable across the board. So I'm going to start with my least favorite place to source. However, it's going to be the best place for you to start. First place, thrift stores. Just generic, as easy as that. Goodwill, Salvation Army, little mom and pop shops. Those places are going to be great. You're going to want to figure out what you want to sell. Pick a topic, whether it's going to be women's shirts or men's shorts or pants. Jeans. Jeans is just a genre all by itself. And I know somebody who made a very profitable business off just selling just jeans. Teapots, teacups, housewares, whatever you're going to sell. What I would recommend is making a list of a couple categories that you're interested in reselling. And then from those categories, you're going to be looking up brands. The easiest place to look up just a few brands until you get really comfortable, you're confident enough to go to my favorite place, which is the Goodwill outlet. I would stick to going to actual stores because there everything's going to be sorted, everything's going to be semi-tidy, and things like, all the jeans are in one section, all the long sleeve shirts are in another section, all the housewares are in another section. And whenever you're starting, going to my favorite place, which is the Goodwill outlet, will be very overwhelming to you, and I do not recommend going to that place first. So the first place to start out going is just thrift stores. Wherever they are, whatever's in your local area, go. The next thing is garage sales and estate sales. Those are great. Usually people just want to get rid of stuff, make a couple bucks. They're not super duper invested in, oh, this is my coat that I wore wherever, I want $80 for it. That does happen, but in general, you can get some great deals. There was a lady doing a garage sale in my neighborhood. I got a pair of Calvin Klein jeans for 50 cents. I know I'm gonna sell them for more than 50 cents. So that's a great resource that I would recommend going to. Some people are a little more precious about their stuff than others, but estate sales, a lot of the times it's, family members and loved ones who just want to get rid of the stuff. And they're more focused on like the art or paintings and sculptures and housewares, like they're more focused on things that they know they can make a good chunk of change on. And usually clothes and shoes are not that. So I would, if you feel like you're going to be going into clothing, and that's what I specialized in, was clothing, shoes, purses, then definitely go to garage sales and estate sales. Next recommendation is to ask your friends. Just say, hey, I'm going to start an online reselling business. Whenever you're going through your closet, would you mind, instead of donating it to, Salvation Army or Goodwill, can you give it to me? Would that be okay? And usually everybody will be like, oh yeah, sure, I would rather give it to you, no problem. However, I will stipulate that there are people that are going to say, oh yeah, no, I have totally a great wardrobe. I have some really great clothing in there, and they'll talk up their clothing, and then you'll get it and it's all from like Walmart or Sears or JCPenney. And you're going to go, neat. And because that's happened to me repeatedly, where people have been like, oh, I have some amazing clothes, great brands, whatever. And I got it. And literally everything was from JCPenney. And things from mall brands generally don't really sell super well. And I do not recommend posting those things for sale. I mean, occasionally, sure. And if it was free and in perfect condition, go ahead and post it. You're not going to make a lot. You'll make about, $9-10 or something, which adds up, which is great. But I want to encourage you to buy higher quality brands because you're going to get more per item. It's great to have, some, lower end brands just as like filler for in between waiting for that big catch or that big sale, but it is not something that I would recommend plaguing your closet with. So whenever friends give you clothes, a lot of the times they're going to follow up with you and be like, hey, so were you able to use all the stuff that I gave you? I know it's really good stuff. And all you're gonna say is, yes, I was able to use some things, and whatever I couldn't use, I went ahead and donated to the women's shelter or the homeless shelter or somewhere, because people will feel better about that. And you know, you don't want to tell them, yeah, everything you gave me was garbage and I can't sell it, because that will hurt their feelings, and you don't want to do that. So I would just say, make up a generic, practice it, you know, a generic saying of like, oh yeah, thank you so much for that. Whatever I wasn't able to use, I went ahead and donated it to the women's shelter. I'm a big donator to the women's shelter and the homeless shelter. And if they start to get super specific with you, which sometimes will happen, that brown coat, I know that was a really expensive coat, and it was at Sears. But it's not something that you can really resell for a good amount of money. So just say, oh yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you donating that to me. And just kind of let it go at that if you can. Or just, again, politely say, I looked that up and it turns out it isn't something that I'm going to be able to sell, which is really disappointing because it's really nice. So, you know, I ended up donating it to, you know, wherever this happens. So just, I wanted to prepare you for that because, oh my dear, does this happen. My second to last recommendation, and this one I actually came up because of COVID. Let's reminisce, shall we? Back to February, early March of 2020. And, you know, I heard that there was something going on. They're going to be doing some lockdowns or whatever. So I went out and sourced a ton, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how long it was going to last. I didn't know anything. I had no expectations. I went out, bought a ton of stuff, came home, was going through, you know, posting it all for sale. And then I ran out of stuff because everything shut down. There was no stores open except for some grocery stores. I mean, I couldn't go out sourcing. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I was brave and I did something that I thought for sure I would be crucified on. And I made a listing in one of my Facebook buy and sell groups that I belong to. And I said, hey everyone, I'm an online reseller. I'm pretty much out of inventory. I know everybody is cleaning out their closets now. If I come and pick up your stuff, can I have it for reselling purposes? And I was completely, again, just expecting to be crucified, but I wasn't. I got an overwhelming amount of positive response. Where I live here in the Portland area, people are super, super anti Goodwill. They just are. For whatever reason, they are. They hate donating to corporate thrift stores. Like, they hate it. So many people were like, yes, I would much rather give it to you than Goodwill. Yes, Cheryl, please come get it. And so I spent the next 3 weeks, every single day, I had to borrow my dad's truck, and I would plot out my course of where to go, and I would pick up bags and bags and bags of clothing. And I would bring it back every day, sort through it, and there would be 3 separate piles: things to keep, things to go to the garbage, and things to redonate. And at the time, the only place that was taking donations was this one community church that helped people who have gone through rehab get back on their feet. I had so much stuff given to me for absolutely free. I ended up giving, you know, those big, large garbage bags, the black ones that are huge. I ended up giving a good solid 20 bags to other resellers that I knew in the area. I gave about 15 like tall kitchen garbage size bags to some people that I knew legitimately needed some clothing that I couldn't resell. And then I took 4 truckloads to the dump because some things I just couldn't resell. I got some really great stuff, but I got some stuff that it was not good. And so I took about 4 truckloads to the dump, and then I think I took 4 truckloads over to the church before they stopped taking donations. I think I kind of overwhelmed them. So that turned out to be great. That's something I would recommend doing. I would not recommend posting it in a lot of different places. I would post it in one buy sell group because chances are you're gonna get a lot of responses. Now, I know my results were skewed because it was, you know, at the height of the lockdown, nobody was allowed to go anywhere or do anything. People just left their garbage bags out for me and I just picked them up. People were home all the time, so they were finally going through their closets and going through all the stuff that they've been putting off. So I understand my results were skewed, but I would still recommend doing this because you're gonna get some awesome stuff. Even if you take, you know, half of it to the dump or you have to redonate half of it, you're gonna get some gems. I got Coach purses, I got Dooney and Burke bags, I got a beautiful brown wool coat. It was stunning. Got it for free and I sold it for a good chunk of change. And, you know, I had so much inventory. I had inventory coming out of my ears. So I would highly recommend doing that. So just a little recap: thrift stores, garage sales and estate sales, asking friends, posting something in a buy sell group, and then 5th is my favorite place to go. This is a true gem, and this is where you're going to really keep your costs down and you're gonna get some amazing stuff for super cheap. So if you haven't heard of it, it's called the Goodwill Outlet. Maybe you've seen it driving through your town, maybe not. They're not everywhere, I will tell you that. My friend who taught me how to resell back in Indiana, she doesn't have one near her. She has to drive 2.5 hours to get to a Goodwill bins. We call it the bins out here, but it's called the Goodwill Outlet. I will tell you why this place is awesome. So all the stuff that doesn't sell in Goodwill, they go through and, you know, pull stuff every week. They take all that stuff and they dump it into these giant blue bins. And then they roll them out into this huge warehouse and they're just like all lined up in rows. And you just go through it. And they're in no particular order. I mean, they try-ish to like separate stuff out. Like there's usually like some big bins of shoes, there's some big bins of electronics, but people go through and mess everything up. Usually the perimeter of the one that I go to is just lined with bin after bin after bin after bin of clothes. It's awesome, but also kind of gross. I'm not gonna lie. I always wear gloves because you will touch things that you don't want to touch with your bare hands. Whether it's gardening gloves or latex gloves, whatever, you're gonna wanna wear some sort of glove situation. Trust me. You're gonna go through and just start at one end and just pick through everything. This is something that I recommend whenever you're a little bit more experienced. In the beginning, I highly recommend, and you'll figure this out on my next video, but I highly recommend only picking, you know, maybe like 10 brands to look for. So you're only looking for those 10 specific brands. And then as you feel more comfortable and confident, then you can expand and look for more brands and look for more brands to the point where you can go through these bins and be like, oh, yep, Eileen Fisher, great, put it in the thing. Oh, yep, I know that brand, put it in. And you just sort through everything. It's the best place, and I will tell you why. It's my favorite place, despite the fact that you need to wear gloves. So they don't price things individually. They price it by the pound. And so at the very end at checkout, there's these huge scales on the ground. They already have them to zero out your shopping cart, the weight of your shopping cart. And then it just weighs how much is in your cart. And then you pay by the pound. It is so great because you can get a mound, and I mean mound, of clothing for, you know, 25 bucks. And the more you buy, the more you save. You know, if you spend at least 25 pounds, In my area where I'm at, it's $1.29 a pound. So for 30 bucks after tax, I get 25 pounds of stuff. Okay, yes, please. And you have to think about it. You know, a tie doesn't weigh that much. A scarf doesn't weigh that much, you know? So even if you do buy like a winter coat, if you counter it with like a whole bunch of ties or a whole bunch of scarves or some chiffon dresses or whatever, it's gonna cost significantly less than buying each of those things individually. And then whenever you're done with shopping at the Goodwill outlets or the bins, I will always refer to it probably as the bins in this video. But whenever you're done, you go home and you count out how many things you got. So count out, you know, I got 45 things for $26 because you do your pre-tax amount. And then you're gonna be like, wow, I got everything for less than $1. I mean, I even got it down to 36 cents once. There was just this huge dump of men's ties, and men's silk ties sell. Not the polyester ones, but the silk ones, they sell. And so I just got a ton of ties. And because they're so light and little, all the other stuff I got, you know, that were a little bit heavier in weight, it counteracted those. And so it ended up being, I got everything in that whole haul for 36 cents. It was awesome. I loved that haul. That was a great, great haul. And fun fact about the ties, I sold one of those ties for $50. $50. I couldn't even imagine somebody paying 50 bucks for a used tie, but the tie was originally a $200 tie, so they got a deal. I spent 36 cents and made a gigantic profit. So that happens. It happens often. Your profit margins reselling are going to be great. Trust me, but you can't overpay. And I'll go over that in the next video. The Goodwill outlet is by far my favorite place to go because you're just going to get a lot of inventory for less than $1 each item. I think one time I paid $1.10 for each item just because there, you know, I just wasn't finding a lot. Sometimes you go and you don't find a lot. Other times you go and you find a ton of stuff. I usually spend a good 2 to 3 hours at the bins sourcing just because it takes time to go through all the bins, and you just start at one end, you have to dig through all the stuff. And again, I do not recommend it for just starting out. Wait until you're a little bit more experienced, but definitely look and see where the closest Goodwill outlet is to wherever you are. Oh, number one, heart-shaped box for that place. It's just so great. I cannot believe some of the things that I found. I found stuff that was like new with tags. Okay, it's just insane to me what people will just donate and just get rid of. But if you're not a reseller, you don't know what you're gonna do with it. I mean, before I got into reselling, I used to do the exact same thing. Thrift stores got a lot of really nice stuff from me. And, you know, I just didn't know what to do. And so my job here is to teach you how to find those things. And I really hope that you do find some awesome treasures. You're not gonna find something magical every single time, but you're gonna find stuff and you're gonna find things that you will be able to resell for a profit. My personal goal is to spend as little money as physically possible, out of pocket money, to have my business function and run. And I tell you what, the Goodwill bins is the place to go for that. But you need experience and you need to be able to identify a lot of different brands, because standing around looking up each item at the bins, you're gonna be there for hours and hours and hours. You need to be able to go through, pick out stuff, you know, keep a small pile of things to look up, because you're like, oh, I don't know anything about that brand. I'm gonna set that aside and look that one up. But you wanna be able to go through and have enough knowledge of brands and whatever it is that you're selling in your brain already, that you just know, like, oh, yep, goes in the cart, goes in the cart, goes in the cart. Or nope, put it on the other side of the pile. It just takes time and experience, and you will get there. Trust me. I know it seems super overwhelming right now, but you will get to the point where you'll be able to go to the Goodwill outlet and be like, I cannot believe what I got, and I cannot wait to hear your stories about it. I definitely want you to share with me your successes, share with me your stories, and share with me your struggles too. At the very end of this course, I will be providing my email address for you to email me, ask me questions, share with me stuff. I'll even do a free analysis of your shop to give you some tips of what I could recommend changing or how things look. I want to be here for you. You paid for this course, and I want you to feel like you got your money's worth out of it, because you know, I'm a single mom and every dollar counts. And so I want to make sure that I'm here to support you, because that's what I want to do. So, all right, let's move on to step 2.